Have you ever felt that sinking sensation the moment you realized you cared just a little too much? That she became the center of your thoughts, your time, your energy, and then she slipped away. Let me say something that might sting, but it will set you free the moment you need her. You've already lost her. Let that settle in your chest for a second. Because real power, the kind that captivates, commands, and holds, never comes from chasing. It doesn't come from pleading, proving, or bending. It comes the moment you turn around and walk away with your soul intact. What if I told you that almost everything you've been taught about how to win a woman's heart was a setup? What if all the movie songs and romantic advice weren't teaching you to love, but to submit, be sweet, they say, always agree, suppress your fire, be the nice guy? But here's the quiet tragedy: it didn't make her love you. It made her bored of you. This message right now isn't for the man who wants to keep playing that game. This is for the man who's exhausted. The one who's been the shoulder, the savior, the clown in the spotlight, all in the hope of finally being chosen. This is your wake-up call. And if something inside you is already nodding, then type it in the comments. Right now, I choose power. She doesn't crave the man who double texts her, who folds at the first tear, who clings to her affection like a drowning man clings to a raft. She's not drawn to the one who always says yes. She's pulled by the man who can walk away mid-sentence, not out of cruelty, but because he knows his worth doesn't live in her hands. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed that the more you give, the less she values? You were told happy wife, happy life, but did all that emotional openness, vulnerability, and self-sacrifice truly pull her closer? Or did she start pulling away the moment you became too soft, too available, too eager? Here's the truth they won't tell you: power is not in how loud you speak, it's in how deeply you stand. Respect isn't requested, it's reflected. And love, the kind that lasts, only flows toward a man who respects himself more than he craves affection. In this video, I'm not going to teach you how to manipulate her, pressure her, or dominate her. No, that's not power. I'm going to show you how to become the man who doesn't need to be chosen, because he chooses himself so unapologetically, she can't help but follow. Let's get one thing straight: the moment she feels you need her more than she respects you, her attraction begins to fade. It's not just emotional, it's biological, it's psychological, it's spiritual. Your energy, your attention, your mood, all orbiting around her smile, her texts, her whims. She feels it. In the way your tone shifts when she's cold, in how fast you reply, in how your entire life bends and flexes to accommodate her waves. You're giving her your power, and you don't even realize it. And when a man hands over his power, he stops being a mountain and becomes a cushion, soft, convenient, forgettable. Not because she's cruel, but because that's what you trained her to see. No woman can fall in love with a man who isn't leading himself. Have you ever chased someone so much that you forgot who you were before you met them? If you follow a woman like a lost boy, hoping she'll somehow crown you with worth, you won't just lose her, you'll lose yourself inch by inch. Everything she once admired in you, the mystery, the presence, the purpose, fades like mist in the morning. What you think is love, those endless texts, constantly asking for her opinion, rearranging your day around her silence, isn't love. It's dependency wearing a mask. And here's the cold truth: dependency is where desire goes to die. It whispers to her, "You are my oxygen. Without you, I cease to exist." But does that make her feel loved or smothered? It doesn't move her. It traps her. She didn't step into your world to carry you on her back like a backpack full of insecurity. She was drawn to something burning inside you, a fire that needed no approval to stay lit. You had a mission, a path, a vision so compelling it magnetized everything around it. But now you've made her the mission. You've turned her into the finish line instead of a companion for the journey. And in doing so, you've become emotionally homeless, living in a house built on her validation. That's not strength. That's not love. That's emotional suicide. If you want her to be drawn to you, not out of duty but desire, then you need to become untouchable in the most magnetic way. Not cold, not distant, but rooted, unshakable. She needs to know with every fiber of her being that if she disappears tomorrow, your world doesn't collapse. You keep walking, unshaken, undistracted, undeniable. That is where attraction lives, in the calm authority of a man who chooses not chases, in the quiet power of direction, in the inner foundation that says, I am already whole. So how do you stop needing her? You have to rebuild yourself from the foundation up. You have to reclaim your energy, stop pouring it into the black hole of constant overthinking about her, and start investing it back into your own becoming. Stop checking if she viewed your story. Stop rereading that text thread, searching for clues like a detective solving a crime that never happened. Stop treating her silence like a code-red emergency. Because every moment you spend decoding her is a moment stolen from your evolution. Get obsessed again, not with her, but with your own greatness. Become so emotionally intelligent, so purpose-driven, so sharp and composed that you shift the energy of a room just by walking into it without saying a single word. Wake up before the sun, bleed in the gym, sweat until the voices of doubt fall silent. Read books that restructure your mind's Stoicism strategy psychology. Train your thoughts like a soldier sharpens his sword. Read until your vision gets blurry and then keep going. Cut the noise, cut the gossipers, cut the women who drain your spirit. Clear out anything that doesn't add strength to your castle. Because you're not just living, you're building an empire. And every action you take, every habit you repeat is either laying a brick or tearing one down. Track your habits like your future depends on it, because it does. This isn't just about women, it's about becoming so formidable, so centered, so self-led, that even if no one applauds you, you still rise. And when she sees that she won't run, she'll revere you, because you've become the man who no longer seeks to be chosen. You've become the one who chooses. There's a rare kind of strength most men never tap into. It's not the kind that roars, it's the kind that sits in silence and endures. Let me ask you, when was the last time you suffered on purpose? Not because life forced you, but because you chose it. See, most people run from pain, but the man who invites it in, who disciplines himself so fiercely that discomfort becomes his daily ritual, that man becomes indestructible. Pain doesn't crush him, it carves him, it teaches him. And once you learn to suffer voluntarily, you stop being a boy. You become the rock, the immovable force no storm can shake, the standard she quietly longs to lean on, even if she can't put it into words. She won't always tell you, but she's craving that man, the one who doesn't flinch when she withdraws, the one who doesn't crumble when she tests his edge, the one who says no, not to punish her, but to protect his own peace, because he'd rather lose her than lose himself. You become him by reclaiming what you've given away in tiny pieces. Start with your attention, the fake laughs you offer when you're not amused. That's a piece. The apologies you make when you've done nothing wrong, that's another. The energy you spend explaining yourself to someone who's already made up her mind, that's a mountain. Take it all back. Stop needing her like oxygen. Start needing your own self-respect like it's the foundation of your world, because it is. When you stop chasing her affection and start guarding your dignity, something shifts. Something powerful. She'll feel it. She won't announce it. She won't send a thank you text. But her energy will soften, her voice will lower, her presence will shift. She'll lean in, not because you begged, but because your silence made her feel safe. This isn't about turning to stone. It's about becoming solid, unshakable. A man so grounded in his truth that even if the entire world turns its back on him, he doesn't flinch. He stays rooted, because he knows real love can't bloom in the soil of insecurity. If you wake up every morning needing her to fill a hole in you, you will always walk through life half-built. But if you lay bricks every day, discipline, purpose, conviction, there will come a moment when your presence alone silences the room, and in that silence, she listens. You won't need to chase, because everything worthy will be drawn to you. That's how you gain power over a woman, not by holding her tighter, but by holding yourself together so completely that she sees you as the anchor in the storm. You don't have to explain yourself. Don't send her another text. Text your future. Don't wait for her to call. Answer your calling. Don't beg to be seen. Choose yourself again and again until your value becomes so undeniable that she sees you, even when you're gone. She doesn't want to save you. She wants to rise beside you. She wants to look at you and feel lifted, not weighed down. And she can't do that if you're still showing up as the man who needs her more than he needs his mission. So build. Build in silence. Build with discipline. Build like your soul is watching, because it is. Have you ever caught yourself tiptoeing through a conversation, carefully choosing words, waiting for her mood to shift before you speak your truth? If so, stop. Stop reading her like a weather report before making your next move. You weren't made to walk on eggshells, you were made to walk with purpose. Because here's the truth. A woman doesn't trust the man who bends for her every mood. She trusts the one who stands tall in his truth even when that truth shakes the room. She doesn't follow the man who seeks comfort in her smile. She follows the one who doesn't need her smile to move forward. And if she can't respect that version of you, let her go. You're not here to convince her. You're here to become such a solid force of purpose that she either joins your journey or watches you disappear into it. You weren't born to orbit her world. You were born to build your own. So cut the noise, mute her stories, stop lingering in her digital shadow, hoping for a reaction. Instead, vanish, not in bitterness, but in evolution. Let her wonder where you went. Let her sit with the silence while you're out there turning pain into power, weakness into wisdom, distraction into discipline. The next time she sees you, let her barely recognize the man you've become, not because you've changed for her, but because you finally chose you. Rewire your mind. Anchor this truth into your soul every single day. Her love is not your oxygen. You breathe just fine on your own. Your purpose is the air that fills your lungs. That's where masculinity lives, not in reaction, but in direction. In knowing who you are, where you're going, and refusing to wait for permission to get there. Become the kind of man who leads his life with such unwavering clarity that she has only two options: rise with you, or be left behind by default. That's the kind of energy that lingers. That's the kind of man she never forgets. Not because you tried to impress her, but because you stopped trying. That's how you gain power. Not by trying to dominate her, not by controlling the outcome, but by becoming undeniable in your mission, in your presence, in your peace. Because here's what no one tells you. She only trusts the man who trusts himself. She only follows the one who walks with certainty, even in chaos. You don't win her respect by trying to control her decisions. You earn it by mastering your own. The real battlefield. It isn't between you and her. It's between you and you. Between your ego and your self-discipline. Between your emotional impulses and the mission you claim to live for. So ask yourself, what happens when she pulls away? Do you fall apart when she's distant? Does your whole day dim when she doesn't respond? Do you question your worth? Because if the answer is yes, you've handed her something sacred, your internal stability. And once that's gone, the balance shifts. You stop being the man she admired and start being the boy she outgrew. You must become unshakable. Build a mind so rooted in peace, so firm in purpose, that her approval becomes a detail, not a requirement. Her beauty doesn't distract you. Her rejection doesn't break you. Most men don't lose because they lack charm, looks, or value. They lose because they can't lead themselves. They lose because they panic when tested, because they fold when the game gets real. But you're not here to fold. You're here to become. Have you ever noticed what happens when a storm hits a forest? The shallow trees sway, break, even uproot. But the oak, firm, grounded, unmoved, it endures. That's the kind of man she's looking for. Not the one who collapses every time she questions his path, but the one who stands rooted even when the winds of doubt try to shake him. Let's be clear about something most men miss entirely when she challenges you. It's not an attack. It's a test. A quiet question hidden beneath her words. Are you solid? Or are you just pretending she's not trying to destroy you? She's trying to see if what you built is real. So what do most men do? They react, they perform, they panic. They try to fix it, explain it, chase it. And in doing so, they reveal the very thing she feared, that their confidence was a costume and not their core. If you want to win her respect, not her sympathy, not her attention, but her respect, stop reacting. Stop flinching. Stop being a passenger in your emotional car. Start building awareness like a warrior sharpens his sword daily, deliberately. Learn to observe your thoughts without kneeling to them. Hear the doubt, but don't bow to it. When she says something that pokes your ego, don't flinch, Breathe, pulse, speak slowly, like a man who knows that power doesn't scream, it whispers from within. When she pulls away emotionally, let her. Don't chase after the echo of connection. Hold your frame. Stay grounded. Let your energy speak the language of gravity, not desperation. Because she's watching something far deeper than your compliments. She's watching your center. And here's the harsh truth: you can't fake it. You either built it or you didn't. And if you want to become that man, you need to kill the boy inside, the one who reacts, who panics, who needs approval to feel worthy. You kill him by refusing to be ruled by your fears, your impulses, your need to do something. That's why when she doesn't reply, you don't triple text. When she questions your worth, you don't explain yourself like you're defending a resume. You sit still, because stillness is the signature of a man in control. Reaction, that's weakness dressed up in urgency. And if she knows you're reactive, she knows she can control you like strings on a puppet. But when you remain unmoved, when your energy feels like stone that the wind can't erode, that's when she leans in. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity. Because rare is the man who doesn't lose himself. Rare is the man who embraces discomfort, rejection, chaos, and keeps walking like his path is paved in steel. And hear this, that man, he's not born. He's forged. You build him in the quiet mornings when no one's watching. When you wake up and hit the gym, even though your body begs for rest, because you know that strength in the body builds discipline in the mind. You build him when you sit to meditate, not to escape, but to face the chaos within. When you journal your thoughts, not to vent, but to understand and then master them. You build him every time you read philosophy, not just to sound smart, but to live wisely, applying truth until your inner world is more structured than any chaos life throws at you. And most of all, you build him when you delay gratification. When temptation whispers and you walk past it with the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't trade peace for pleasure. So ask yourself, are you reacting or are you building? Because she's not just watching who you are, she's watching who you're becoming. Mastering your mind isn't just about quoting Stoicism or reading Marcus Aurelius in your spare time. It's not about pretending to be calm while boiling inside. It's about becoming the kind of man whose emotional gravity is stronger than the chaos swirling around him. The kind of man who, when the world tries to move him, doesn't even flinch. It's about showing her, not preaching, not persuading, that you are your own compass. Not her emotions, not her moods, not society's expectations. Your values are your anchor. Your mission is your map. And your emotions? They are just weather patterns, important, but not commands. You learn to feel deeply, without reacting impulsively. You train yourself to experience life fully, without clinging or attaching. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you sat in emotional turbulence and didn't try to fix it, escape it, or outsource it to her? Because the man who can sit in the storm and still smile is the one who owns the room. And not because he's cocky or cold, but because he's centered, grounded, rooted in a sense of clarity so rare, so calming, that it draws her in like a campfire on a cold night. That presence, that calm certainty, it doesn't just attract her, it holds her. It makes her feel safe enough to soften, to trust, to lean in. But it doesn't come from luck. It comes from daily choices. The choice to discipline yourself when no one's watching, to choose structure over surrender, to choose challenge over comfort. Because every time you skip the gym for an excuse, you're not just losing muscle, you're weakening your own integrity. Every time you avoid discomfort, you're feeding that fragile boy inside, the one who cries for validation, who flinches at silence. It's time to starve that boy and feed the warrior instead. You are not here to be emotionally available to every storm that knocks at your door. You are here to lead, and leadership. It doesn't begin in the boardroom. It begins in your own mind. If you can't follow through on your own promises, how can she follow you? If you can't stay grounded in your own truth, how can she trust your direction? Speak less, move more, build your own personal code, your internal law, and follow it like your life depends on it. Wake up with sacred purpose. Let your mornings be rituals of power. Let your words be few and your actions unmistakable. Don't argue. Don't defend. Don't chase. You're not here to convince her. You're here to become a man who doesn't need to be convincing. Because when she sees that, when she watches you stay calm while everything else spins, she doesn't pull away. She draws closer, not because you pushed, but because your stillness pulled her in. You became the lighthouse in her emotional storm, the presence that doesn't shout, doesn't beg, but simply is. And here's the secret: you don't lead her through force. You lead through clarity. You don't gain influence by overpowering her. You gain it by becoming so anchored in who you are, so unshakably in command of yourself, that she chooses to follow your lead. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence earned it. Master your mind, and she will never forget your energy. Because real strength isn't shown when she's watching, it's shown when she's not replying. When your pride begs you to prove your worth, and you choose silence instead. When you want to fold, but you choose stillness. When every cell in your body wants to be seen, and yet you walk away unseen but unshaken. That's when you become untouchable. Because she doesn't need a man who reacts to her chaos. She needs a man who can walk her through the storm without losing his balance. You don't become that man, the one who commands respect without raising his voice, just by scrolling quotes or binging YouTube videos with Stoic overlays and cinematic music. You become him when your life stops being a series of reactions and starts becoming a ritual. You become him when you carve your values into your schedule, when your actions rise to match your standards, not just once but daily, consistently, relentlessly. Ask yourself, what does a man like that do before the sun even touches the sky? He wakes up before her, not to impress, but to progress. He grinds while the world sleeps, not for applause, but for alignment. He trains not just his body, but his will. He doesn't wait to feel motivated. His rituals are his motivation. And when she comes back, when she glances over her shoulder, expecting to see you shaken, scattered, waiting, she finds stillness instead. She sees you didn't break, you didn't chase, you didn't orbit. You stood. And that stillness, it doesn't whisper. It redefines the relationship. It flips the script. Because deep down, she was never looking for someone to carry. She was looking for someone to mirror. She doesn't want to mother you. She wants to reflect you. And what does the mirror reflect? Not desperation, not emotional chaos. It reflects strength, structure, sovereignty. A man whose internal world is so composed, so coherent, that it brings order to her emotional chaos, not the other way around. So build that version of you, quietly, repeatedly, permanently. Because here's a brutal truth: if you don't control the frame, you don't even exist in her world. You're not leading, you're orbiting. And a man who orbits isn't respected. He's tolerated until he isn't. She doesn't follow a man who bends like grass in the wind. She follows the man who stands like stone. She doesn't trust the man who edits his truth just to fit into her comfort zone. She doesn't admire the one who changes his beliefs like clothes just to stay liked. Every time you fold on something that matters to you just to gain approval, you lose something far more valuable than her affection. You lose her respect. And respect is never about what you say, it's about what you sacrifice. It's about what you compromise when it's inconvenient. Holding frame isn't about controlling her. It's about controlling your direction no matter who's watching, no matter who's questioning. The man who holds the frame doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to prove. His presence speaks, his silence echoes, and she feels it. She notices when you let disrespect slide, when you stop correcting the tone that once crossed your boundary. You might think it's minor, but she records it. She watches when you start allowing the things you once stood against. She files it away like mental notes because her biology demands safety. And here's the hardwired truth: safety is built on certainty. And certainty doesn't come from your charm. It comes from your willingness to walk alone when your principles leave no room for compromise. Frame isn't arrogance, it's awareness. It's the conscious discipline to hold your line in the middle of emotional fire, to remain composed when everything around you calls for collapse. That's the man she follows. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. When she pulls back with attitude, goes cold with distance, or throws a little storm of provocation your way, she's not just being difficult. She's asking you a question silently but powerfully. And the question is this: are you still who you said you were? Not in words, but in energy, in vibe, in the way your posture shifts or doesn't. And the moment you adjust your entire energy just to avoid conflict, just to keep her calm, you've already lost the frame. The second you start over-explaining your choices, justifying her bad behavior, rationalizing her betrayal, you're not holding the line anymore. You're handing it to her, hoping she'll be kind with it. But here's a cold truth: you cannot command respect from a position of apology, especially when you've done nothing wrong. Respect isn't born from defensiveness. It doesn't grow where boundaries are vague. If you stayed true to your values, if your integrity is intact, then brother, you owe nothing. No long text, no anxious clarification, no let me explain so you won't leave. Holding frame means this: your values are not for sale, not for comfort, not even for the woman you love most. You don't negotiate your standards, you live by them. You enforce them. And enforcement doesn't need to be loud or aggressive. It needs to be calm, rooted, immovable. Because she doesn't fall for your flexibility, she falls for your foundation. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you said no and meant it without anger, without insecurity, without the need to apologize? A man who can calmly, confidently say no without flinching, that man rewrites the entire script. It stuns her because it's rare. Most men either snap or submit. But when you stand tall, when your tone is steady, when your presence says, this is who I am and this line is not moving, that's when she leans in. That's when her test becomes belief. You see, frame isn't about control over her. It's about control over yourself. It's about remembering that you are the chooser, not the applicant. You're not auditioning for her world. She's being invited into yours. You are the gravitational center, your mission, your purpose, your peace. And when you start diluting all of that just to make her comfortable, just to keep the peace, you stop being memorable. You start becoming forgettable. Because here's the truth: she doesn't want to lead. She wants to trust the one who does. So if you say you don't tolerate lateness, don't laugh it off when she's late. If you say loyalty is non-negotiable, don't make exceptions for betrayal dressed in charm. If you say your mission comes first, then prove it. Don't trade it for convenience, for comfort, or for temporary attention. She will test that frame, not to leave, but to believe. She wants to see if the strength she felt in you is real or just a polished performance. And each time you hold it, each time you stand in what matters to you without flinching, her respect for you grows. But the moment you fold even just once, a piece of you dies in her eyes. Not because she's cruel, but because the structure she thought could hold her started to wobble. Frame isn't built on domination, it's built on direction. You must be so clear about where you're going, so locked into your life's path, that she either aligns herself with it or watches you walk it alone. You are not here to bend into her chaos. You are here to invite her into your order. And if she cannot walk beside you without distorting that order, then she's not the one meant to walk beside you at all. You release her, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with peace. Because the man who knows his purpose also knows this. Not everyone is meant to walk that path with you. And as you walk like a king, you must audit your kingdom the same way a king audits his court. Ask yourself, who adds strength to your empire? Who drains it? Who honors your presence and who only pretends? Who respects your throne and who schemes behind it? Because here's the final truth. You do not beg people to stay in your kingdom. You raise your standard and let the unworthy disqualify themselves. Build yourself so deliberately, so fiercely, so unapologetically that anyone who walks away does so at their own loss, not yours. That's the true essence of frame. You don't mold yourself to be liked, to be chosen, to be tolerated. You craft your life with such unwavering purpose that only those truly aligned with your path can remain in your orbit. You don't bend, you build. And when she witnesses that, when she feels the calm in your silence, when she sees that you are not swayed by her coldness, her distance, or her subtle threats to leave, something shifts. She softens, not out of fear, but out of reverence, out of trust. Because in a world that constantly demands she lead, that praises her independence, while secretly exhausting her soul, what she truly craves is a man who stands firm, not for her, but for himself. A man who cannot be seduced by comfort or manipulated by emotion. This isn't emotional detachment. It's grounded strength. It's the kind of strength that gives her permission to rest, to exhale, to let go of control because finally she feels safe. And isn't that what she's truly seeking? A man who offers safety not in shelter but in presence, in certainty, in direction. But here's the part most forget, that trust, that soft surrender. It isn't handed out for free. It's earned, quietly, consistently. It begins the day you decide that your frame, your mission, your vision, and the values that define your identity come before her approval, before her moods, before her momentary doubts. Yes, love her with depth, with fire, with loyalty, but never love her above the calling that defines your life. Because the second you place her on a pedestal above your purpose, she'll begin to lose faith, not because she's ungrateful, but because the compass she once looked to is now spinning. She can't follow a man who follows her. True leadership is quiet. It's not declared, it's demonstrated. It lives in the pause between your words, in your timing, in your boundaries, in your refusal to abandon what matters for fleeting emotions. And when you live that way fully, daily, unshakably, the question no longer becomes, will she stay? The only question becomes, does she align or does she exit? And either way, you remain rooted. That's frame. That's power. Because a man who leads never chases. He doesn't run after her. He doesn't beg her to see his worth. He builds something so powerful, so magnetic, so beautiful, that she can't help but want to be a part of it. Leadership isn't pursuit, it's presence. She doesn't follow the man who floods her inbox with endless texts, explains his intentions 1,000 times, or tries to impress her with gifts and grand gestures. She follows the man whose direction is so clear, so focused, so unshakable, that her instincts whisper, I need to follow him or I'll get left behind. When you chase, you hand her the pen. You give her the script. You silently ask her to lead, to decide, to choose for the both of you. And deep down, she doesn't want that burden. She might not say it, she might not even know it, but she resents it. Because chasing isn't romantic. It's a silent admission of lack. It's a confession that says, I don't believe I'm enough on my own, so I need your attention to feel like a man. But what happens when you stop chasing validation from her and start giving it to yourself? What happens when you stop running toward her and instead run toward your vision, your purpose, your greatness? That's when she finally sees you, because attraction doesn't grow in desperation. It begins the moment desperation ends. She doesn't want to be overwhelmed by your presence. She wants to be inspired by it. And inspiration, real lasting inspiration, comes from motion, from direction, from ambition, from the quiet discipline that shapes kings, not beggars. Build your life like a gravitational force. Become the man whose presence changes the tone of a room before he even speaks. The kind of man who doesn't ask for approval because he's already approved himself. The kind of man who places his mission far above momentary emotions, not because he doesn't care about her, but because he cares about becoming the kind of man who leads with certainty, not desperation. And when you become that man, she either joins the path or watches you walk it without her. Your discipline is your gravity. It's not loud. It doesn't beg, but it pulls with quiet intensity. Your silence, that's your edge. That's the stillness that draws her curiosity deeper than any words ever could. And your path, that's your invitation. Not a plea, not a chase, an invitation to something greater. If she can't see that, it doesn't mean you change. It means she's not ready. And a man like you don't slow down for the unready. You don't dim your fire to make someone else comfortable in the shadows. You keep moving. You keep sharpening. You focus on becoming more dangerous, not in a reckless way, but in a way that says, I've mastered myself. More grounded in your truth. More capable of leading not just a relationship, but a life that commands attention. You stop chasing women. You chase mastery. You work until your thoughts are so valuable, people pay to hear them. You refine your body until it becomes a walking testament of control, intention, and strength. You grow your network until your name is whispered in rooms where power is passed, rooms she never knew existed. And through all of that, you remain kind, yes, but unattached. Loving but never losing yourself. Available but never waiting. Because chasing implies lack. But you operate from fullness. You don't chase because you know what's meant to align with your mission will never ask you to abandon it. She has to see your time is earned, not owed. Your presence is sacred, not free. You're not here to entertain her emotions. You're here to evolve your essence. And if she's the right woman, she won't feel offended by that. She'll feel safe. She'll feel like she's finally found something real, not because you gave her everything she wanted, but because you never gave up what made you you. A man like that, the one who leads without chasing, creates a rare kind of trust. His energy doesn't beg, it invites. It doesn't pull, it pulls others upward. That invitation, it's magnetic. Why? Because it's rare. Because it cannot be manipulated. Because she knows deep down she has to rise to be worthy of it. And that expectation, that standard, evokes respect. She doesn't respect the man who sends novels over text explaining himself to death. She respects the man who moves in silence, the man whose path speaks louder than anything he could say. She watches him, and she wonders, how do I get close to that kind of peace? So how do you become that man? You start by cutting off every behavior that whispers, please choose me. And you replace it with a life so full, so focused, so fulfilling, that if she left today, nothing would break. Your center would remain intact. Your mission would keep going, because you don't lead by needing. You lead by becoming the man who adds, not takes. The man who brings order to chaos, clarity to confusion, direction to delay. And here's the truth. That level of presence, you can't fake it. You can't fake peace in your eyes. You can't fake purpose in your walk. That kind of leadership is forged in silence. In mornings before sunrise when no one's clapping. In reps no one is counting. In hard reflections when there's no one there to reassure you. You lead without chasing, by becoming. Becoming so focused on your evolution that you forget to ask if she's watching. Because let's be honest, she always is. She's watching not your words, not your flex, not the persona you post online, but the moments in between. She's observing how you respond to her distance, how you move when her attention fades, how you carry yourself in silence. When no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when you're alone in your own shadow. That's where your true leadership reveals itself. Not in the chase, not in the pursuit, but in your presence, in your stillness, in the unshakable way you walk forward even when she pulls away. And when you hold your center not out of spite but out of self-respect, something shifts. Her tone softens. Her energy changes. Suddenly, she's the one reaching out, initiating, leaning in. Not because you chased her, but because you led. And in that quiet reversal, you reclaim your throne. Not above her, but ahead of her. Right where you were always meant to be. Because let's be honest, you weren't born to beg for affection. You weren't built to compete for love like it's a prize you have to earn. You were never meant to ask permission to be yourself. You're not here to shrink to fit someone's expectations. You're here to shape your reality, to own your space, to walk into every room, not with noise, but with the kind of presence that silences the noise. The moment you stop living to be liked and start becoming a man who is respected, even in silence, your world starts bending to you. Women feel it. Opportunities sense it. Even life starts responding differently. You don't need perfection, that's a myth. What you need is progress daily, deliberate, disciplined progress. Stop waiting for someone to notice your worth. Become the man who never has to explain it because it's written in every decision he makes, every step he takes, every line he refuses to cross. Your leadership begins when your excuses end. Your confidence is born the moment you start doing what scares you. Your power emerges the instant you vow never to fold on your values again, no matter who walks away. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're just buried beneath layers of comfort, distraction, and fear. And it's time. Time to burn all of it. To rise from the ashes, not just changed, but unrecognizable. And do it not just for her, not just for the world. Do it for you, for the man inside you who never begged, who never settled, who never apologized for walking the road no one else dared to walk. This is your life, your story, your kingdom. And it's time you wrote it with fire in your chest and steel in your spine. If something deep inside you stirred while watching this, if a flicker of forgotten strength just woke up, don't let that flame die out. Hit the like button, subscribe. Not just to help an algorithm, but to help a movement. Because every time you support this message, you help bring these truths to the men still hiding in silence, still seeking approval in a world that no longer remembers what strength really looks like. And when you're done watching, share this with a brother who needs to be reminded, Drop a comment below that simply says, I'm building myself. Because I know you're not here for entertainment. You're here for transformation. You're here to become the man you were always meant to be.